Folks, this might be your last time to capitalize on a generational wealth building opportunity that nobody seems to be looking at right now. What are you probably looking at? Iran, oil, Strait of Hormuz, inflation, all this craziness that is very unlikely to move the needle in the stock market in the long term. So it's kind of like a smokescreen distracting you from the big idea that we have to talk about right now. And if we just take a look at the fear greed index right now, so many people are terrified and freaking out about what's happening in the stock market. Why are we at extreme fear right now? Do I need to sell? Do I need to buy? There's just simply so much confusion out there. So we're going to simplify all this in a very logical way. So right now, looking at the fear greed index, you can see that the needle is pointing to the left to extreme fear at a number of 15. What's happening right now is the stock market has been absolutely ripping the last couple years. All the retail investors that came into the market in this time frame, all you know is market going up and to the right. The second we get a little bit of a dip, we see a V-shaped recovery. So when we're having all that on the backs of this Iran thing and World War III and all this craziness happening, the market is now down roughly 7% from all-time highs. Is this something to worry about? Is this something to panic about? Is this something to have extreme fear about right now? The answer, in my opinion, is no. And we're going to capitalize on that. And throughout this video, we're going to talk about exactly how we're going to capitalize on it. But you have to understand this. When the market is fearful, there's potential opportunities and deals out there. This is a time to buy shares, buy calls, sell puts, and allocate bullishly. But the problem is that it feels like the exact wrong time to do it. Whenever you're in the middle of any of these negative events, like if we just look at previous wars going back to 1927, when you're in the middle of these events right here, it feels like the end of the world. It feels like the stock market's never going to recover. It feels like, how could we possibly get out of this alive? But every single time, look at the chart of the S&P 500 right here. Literally starting at $10 per share. And now we're on our way to $10,000 per share for the S&P 500. And all of these negative events happened in that time frame. You mean to sit there and tell me that you think that this time is different with Iran or any negative thing happening with oil or whatever? We have had so many things that happen like this in the past, and it's just history repeats every single time. Analysts make the same mistakes. Retail investors make the same mistakes. Institutional investors make the same mistakes. These are professional investors that have apparently been through this stuff before. But for whatever reason, they think that this time is different. They think that America's not going to recover. They think the stock market's not going to recover. They think that the companies in the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq, these huge behemoth companies, are not going to find a way to navigate this sticky situation, continue to grow their revenues, continue to grow their earnings per share in the future. Kind of crazy when people think like that, because in the long term, it's extremely likely we're going to be just fine. We've been through this before. The market is, this is not the first rodeo for us, guys. This is not the first rodeo for the market to have a bad thing to happen. So when we go look at this newsletter right here that I send out every single weekend, link below if you want to get it for free, you see that the fear greed index is clearly extreme fear. That is a time when you want to generally flip to a bullish stance. I know it feels tough. I know it feels like going against the crowd. But when you understand that the crowd usually underperforms the stock market by so much in the long term, it's kind of logical to do the opposite of what the crowd does. I know it's crazy to talk like that, but that's just simply how this stuff works. You want to buy when things are cheap at a grocery store or at a car dealership, whatever. You want to buy when things are on sale, right? The stock market is now on sale. Not saying it's a screaming hot deal, but things are on sale right now, and that is a good time to buy. If we take a look at the fear greed index plotted historically, you notice that whenever the fear greed index is low, like here, here, and now over here where we're at currently, how are the future expected returns going forward in the stock market? We all know what happened in April, how the stock market totally ripped coming out of that right there. If we go to this chart right here, let's look at a percentage basis where the NASDAQ went from April to right now, up 38% just in a year. 1 year, the market went up 38%, and right now, recording this video, we are now at a very similar level on the fear greed index. Now, when we're at these extreme fear levels in the market, your friends are nervous, your colleagues at work are nervous, everyone's talking about how much money they're losing. You suddenly stop seeing everyone show their portfolios on YouTube and X because they're just down all this money. Meanwhile, I still show my portfolio, and I'm down a similar amount overall. Hit the refresh right now. I am down a similar amount overall as what the NASDAQ is down from all-time high to right now. I'm down 0.69% today. The NASDAQ is down basically the exact same for the day. So I have similar downside as the market, but quite a bit more upside as a market how I'm currently allocated because I want to capitalize on this generational wealth building opportunity that is happening right before everyone's eyes. And we're getting this gift of this Iran volatility right before we could have our last chance to allocate into it. So now we're getting all these great companies on sale before the big move is probably going to come. So when we see fear in the market, that is the time to allocate. When you see that the S&P 500 is quite a bit of ways below the 125-day moving average, this is a time to allocate bullishly. You see so many people online talking about, I just saw it on CNBC last night, people talking about, oh, well, the market has to reclaim its 125-day or 200-day moving average or else XYZ is going to happen. Or else what? The more that it falls below the 125-day moving average, the cheaper that the market's getting, the safer that the market's getting. Don't you want to see deals out there? Don't you want to capitalize on this stuff to not just make money instantly in the next month, but when you allocate, when things are largely undervalued, largely below the 125-day or even 200-day moving average line, you are likely to have very good future expected returns because the market is beat up in the short term. You know, I talk about that earnings per share growth line all the time on this channel. This line is kind of similar to it. Earnings per share is going up and to the right. The market is simply just following where this, 125-day moving average line is kind of going. So the name of the game is to buy good companies and good ETFs for less than what they're worth when they're on sale. There's sales down here. The market's nervous. It's pricing things well below where they should actually be at. So the future returns were great. The market was quite a bit of ways above the 125-day moving average right here. And then now look at how the future expected returns were. They weren't too good. But now that the market is now below the 125-day moving average, this time is not different, 99.9% chance. This is a time to start allocating bullishly. But we're not going to allocate bullishly and try to capitalize on a 1-month move in the stock market. Nobody knows what the market's going to do on a month-to-month basis. Even if you would have did like allocated right here and you would have gave yourself a 1-month time frame because hey, you're below the 125-day moving average, if you would have gave yourself about a month, you still wouldn't have made any money. But if you would have gave yourself a few months or even a year, you would have made a lot of money on that dip right there. So you have to extend your time horizon to give time for your thesis to play out. Now, something that you might feel like is minutia, but so many people kind of just like throw this under the rug and think it doesn't really mean anything, is the put call ratio in the stock market. We all know that when you buy a put option, that's downside protection, so you are bearish. When you buy a call option, it's upside. You want to buy the call when you think something's going to go up. So what's happening right now is it's just history is repeating itself all over again. Notice how the market fell below the 125-day moving average. We're below it right here again too. Notice how the fear greed index, extremely fearful, extremely fearful. And then notice what typical retail investors do in the stock market. They are buying puts to hedge their downside at the exact wrong time. It's so crazy how this happens. Like, it's perfect to just show you on this chart of how retail traders and institutional traders get this so wrong. April, you see a huge spike right here in people buying put options, meaning they're buying downside protection when the market is well below the 125-day moving average, when the market is on sale down here. Now what we're seeing again is the exact same thing as what happened about a year ago. You see more puts being bought, more downside protection being bought, and all these puts that are being bought right here, the vast majority of them are going to expire worthless because people are buying puts at the exact wrong time. When do you want to buy puts? You want to buy puts right here when the market is quite a bit a ways above the 125-day moving average, quite a bit of ways above the earnings per share growth line. How many people were buying puts in that time frame? Puts were at an all-time low in this one-year chart right here. Nobody was buying puts. Everybody wants them right now as the market's going down. It's just classic human emotion of being on the opposite side of every single trade. Humans love to chase things as they're going up and sell things as they're going down. But you want to sell things into strength when they're going up and they're more expensive, and you want to buy things as they're going down and getting cheaper and more compelling and safe in price. Now, the volatility in the stock market is obviously spiking right now. Why is the volatility spiking? Well, simply because we have all this uncertainty with what's going on with Iran. So, being a put option seller, you want to see higher volatility because you're getting more premium when you sell the put option contracts. So when people are willing to buy puts right here, they're paying top dollar for them, and the implied volatility is very high. It's kind of high right now. It's not super high. You're getting more bang for your buck. People are willing to pay you more for that insurance policy because I'm selling you a put. They're going to buy the put from you. That's just selling them insurance. So when you understand all this, and then we take a look at the chart of the NASDAQ, and you realize that the NASDAQ is literally only down from all-time highs, 7.42%. Like, this is a normal, healthy, and justified dip in the stock market. And most people just don't want to realize that. Most people just want to see their stocks go up, 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 and never go down. That is not realistic, and that is not how the stock market works. We're going to see volatility. Berkshire Hathaway, Warren Buffett, he has seen multiple 50% drops of Berkshire Hathaway stock. Did he panic? Was the true underlying business collapsing when the stock price was going down? Of course not. Amazon stock in 1999, 2000, the stock fell like 95%. Was the underlying fundamentals of that business going down in that time frame? No. The valuation of the stock just went up a little bit too much for what was justified, so it was correcting a little bit. Now, if I were to draw that earnings per share growth line on this chart right here, it's going to look something along the lines of this right here, going from right there to right there, something like that. You notice that the market was below the earnings per share growth line right here. Future returns look great. Market was above, future returns kind of look crappy. Now that the market is basically at fair value or intrinsic value, as I like to call it, the future expected returns look good. But before we talk about how much earnings per share is actually going up and how much money you could expect to make in this humongous opportunity in front of us, we have to take a look at where the price earnings ratio level is actually at right now for the S&P 500. It's kind of hard to see, but the red line right here is the S&P, blue lines are the P ratio levels. We're basically right here at 20. And given that the earnings per share growth is strong, inflation is relatively low. You can see inflation is relatively low by looking at the Truflation data. 1.74% as of right now. Target is 2%. We're still below target. And the overall economy is holding up and doing decent right now on the backs of all this AI efficiency coming. Trading at a 20 for a price earnings ratio level going forward is not bad in my opinion. It's kind of close to fair. So if we assume that we sit at a 20 for a price earnings ratio level forever, or just for the coming years, we'll just say, we have to look at how much the profits are actually going up to know how much money we expect to make. Now, if we take a look at this article right here, you could see that earnings growth for Q1 of 2026 year over year is estimated to be 12.5%. 12.5% earnings per share growth is very, very strong. So basically what that means is 1 year from right now, we should expect to see the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ up roughly 12.5% from where it's at right now. So if we just go zoom this out and we go plot that and see where does 12.5% look from where we're at right now until 1 year out, we're going to go from March 23rd of 2026, and then we're going to go to March 23rd of 2027, somewhere around right here, and then we're going to go up 12.5%. So we're looking at a NASDAQ that's up roughly 12%, sitting somewhere around $655 for the triple Q index. Now what happens is that this is just not 1 year of growth. This growth continues year after year after year. So when we do it again, we stack another 12.5% on it, and then we go till March of the following year, and then we do it again and again and again. This is likely the direction of where the stock market's going to go. Yes, there's going to be a lot of bumps along the way, a lot of volatility, but when you understand that the market follows where the profits go in the long term, you know that you have this bullish tailwind behind you of the stock market likely going up and to the right in the long term. Now, when we get this short-term volatility, it's simply time to capitalize and allocate very bullishly. If we pop over to my stock sheet, we'll go into this very, very quick. Right here, column H is the companies that I am most bullish on. I do extreme detailed breakdowns in Discord. I do thesis videos, typed out breakdowns. I listen to the earnings calls, read the reports, do my full breakdown on all these companies. It's very, very detailed. But then I go and summarize my results right here. These are the companies that I'm most bullish on right now. The higher the score, the more bullish I am. So the NVIDIAs, the TSMs, the Microns, the Metas, the Triple Q, the VOO, the Robinhoods, the Microsofts, the Celsius, the Bank of America, the United Health, the Berkshire Hathaway, you get it. Really anything above a 75, like I say right here, is potentially a buy. I'm not saying I'm buying everything, but it is potentially a buy. I do have a potential allocation section right here, which I go through other intrinsic value calculations here. So that stock sheet is just one tool that I use that I always keep updated based on my thesis of where the economy's at, where the stock market's at, where's valuations at, interest rates, macro, micro. The totality of all the data gets put onto that stock sheet, and that's how I allocate for the most part. So it's a very important tool to check out. But short term in the market, I do expect a lot of volatility. I do expect a lot of bumps along the way. I do not know what Trump's going to tweet out, neither do you. And it seems like this market is so headline driven by what Trump is saying, you're probably like a monkey with your head cut off if you're trying to digest every little article and then go make a trade based on that. The name of the game is to buy great companies for less than what they're worth. Give yourself a few years to hold them for. The more time you hold them for, the longer that the valuation is going to reset higher to where you think it should be trading at, and the longer that you give the company time to grow their profits. Those two bullish tailwinds behind you is exactly what Warren Buffett does and how he scaled to $150 billion. I basically do the exact strategy as what Warren Buffett does, and I do layer a little bit of options on top of what I do too. Basically exactly how Warren Buffett does options too. We both sell long duration put options. We generate the cash flow. We go reinvest it. Portfolio secured, not cash secured. There's a lot of value in that stuff. So if you want to learn more about my option system, watch this playlist right here. It's a bunch of videos that I put together. It's going to help you out a lot, and I'll see you guys there.